Hello, everyone. How's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and I'd like to do an early review of Quasimorph, shall we? It's an early review because this game's in early access, and because I've only played it for a few hours at this point. I streamed it, and I've done a couple of off-stream episodes myself, and I wanted to just get a review out there of my sentiments because I think this is a fun game, and I want to kind of talk about what kind of a game it is and why I like it and where I think it needs to improve. So I'm going to give this game a grade like it's in class, and I'm going to give it a letter grade, and then I'm going to give it a recommendation for anyone to see if I think that they should try out Quasimorph and play it. So first of all, what kind of a game is Quasimorph? Quasimorph is a extraction-based roguelike. So you think Stone Shard, and by the way, it's from the same publishing house as Stone Shard, so there's some overlap in some of the design elements where you have a turn-based kind of game. Doors of Trithias also has controls like this where you can click to move or use the arrow keys, and it's incredibly difficult and punishing with a complicated injury and debuff system, but it's a sci-fi game set in the future in space, and so you've got some Jupiter hell elements and you're shooting through corridors filled with aliens and such, and then also there's this supernatural Quasimorph element to the game. I won't really spoil that, but it's part of it where, there's extra dimensional, insanity going on. So you have that, and all of this blends together to make a game it's quite difficult, but it's more a roguelite than a roguelike, because even though when your characters die, it's kaput for them and they lose their experience, you do retain some of their items on your spaceship, and you get to carry over some of the things that you've unlocked. So there's a meta progression behind the scenes, but it is a very brutally difficult game, and I've died several times in, kind of WTF moments, and that is par for the course in a roguelike. So I think it's a bit of both. It has permadeath, but then it also has the where you have to start over, but you get some equipment that you can carry over, and if your character survives the mission, then you get to use them again with all of the equipment and the experience that they kept. So it's a kind of a nice spin on mostly roguelite elements, but then permadeath of the characters. So that being said, now that we know kind of what type of a game this is, turn-based sci-fi roguelite with some extraction, actually it's all extraction. Is this game fun? Let's talk about the fun factor of Quasimorph. Yes, I think it's a very fun game. If you like sci-fi roguelikes, you like Jupiter Hell, or even if you like fantasy roguelikes and you want to try one in space, right? Cogmind is fantastic, but you're a robot, not really a run-and-gun marine type. And this game gives you some really fun elements that has a lot of what Stone Shard offers, but it's not one character, and it's not open world. It's closed missions that are procedurally generated that you run and extract to earn rewards, and then you have your base, and you actually travel to other planets and systems, and then you interact with people and you do mercenary missions. So it's just got a lot of cool stuff going on that makes this a lot of fun. It's cool to get the gunplay is good. It's cool to get weapons and have to make decisions on the fly about what you pick up and what you don't. So even though this game is very difficult, I think it's fun. Now, what about the controls? Given the fact that I think this is a fun game, how does the game control for what it asks you to be doing? And it's a mouse and keyboard control. You can use the arrow keys to move, you can left-click to move. And for the most part, the controls work really well. Everything seems to do what you would want. You left-click to move around. You can pan around the camera, which is great, and move far away on the map, something you couldn't really do easily in Stone Shard that I very much like. And it has a pretty smart movement system that stops when you see enemies, and you can right-click to inspect things, and you have key bindings for all of the major abilities that you want to trigger. So I think that the controls are very good in Quasimorph. Now, a subset of the controls that I always like to discuss are the systems and the UI. How does the UI, transmit the information and present it to you in the game, and how do the systems work within the game that aren't just the main system if there's multiple components. So this game actually does have several systems. So for the systems, you have just the extraction-based roguelike where you're going in, turn-based roguelike style, fighting, looting, all of that, and that works great, exactly as you would expect. Then there's a crafting system built in. It's like Doors of Trithias, but you can actually do it with a timer function on your base, or if you find workshops within the world. So it's pretty neat, and it gives you a complex decision on should I pick up practical elements or should I pick up ingredients to try to craft stuff back at the base. Then there is a mission system where you go to different systems and you choose which missions to do, and that's pretty cool. And then there's a leveling up system where you select your character and then you select the class, and you could change the class for your characters between missions, and you earn experience for each of the different elements of that class by doing certain trigger functions. So for example, one function is like you fire your gun, and every time you do, you get 2 experience in this skill, or you dodge an attack in combat. So there's certain skills that you just level up by doing stuff. There's one that's like bodybuilding, and if you just every turn that you carry some heavy weight, then you are leveling that up behind the scenes. So it's a really cool leveling system. I like it so far. So I think that works well. The UI does have some quirkiness. For the most part, it's super transparent. I like it. There's an inventory. There's a health screen. Oh, there's also, that leads into, there's a medical system in the game where you have different body parts that can receive damage, and you have to use the right instrument to treat it. You can get poisoned. You can get infected. You can get, fractures and burns and stuff like that all require, different types of treatment. So that works out fine. It's an involved medical system, but one that you are kind of used to in a lot of roguelikes where they get really into the weeds on that stuff, and that's fine. And the UI works pretty well. There's some smoothing and quality of life stuff that they could factor in. You could easily be able to move items between your stash and your inventory with like a shift or control click or something like that. It would be nice if some of the picking up and the sorting of your stuff was easier to do. I think there was one moment where I was in the health window and I had debuffs on me and I wanted to know which health item to use, but I had to actually close the health screen to then mouse over the debuff icon to see what it was. And then even when you look at your weapons to know what type of damage they do, it actually depends on what ammo you have equipped. So you have to mouse over the ammo to see what damage type it is instead of the weapon. And just some like small clunkiness like that they can easily iron out. So for the most part, the UI is good, but there is one major drawback, and there's no combat log in the UI or any of the game. And I think for me, for a roguelike, it's not a deal breaker, but it's certainly something that I expect and I would like to see in the game. I want to be able to see how much damage I'm doing. Did I miss? What happened? What damage did they do to me? What type of damage was it? What happened? Like, I've died and I've been like, I don't even know what happened. There's no report. You're just dead. And I need to be able to go back through the log and kind of see what happened exactly so I can make better decisions the next time. So I love combat logs. Some games, Jupiter Hell doesn't have one, and it's to that game's detriment as well. Like, I would like a combat log in every turn-based roguelike that I play. That's just me personally. So what about the story in Quasimorph? It actually does have a story, and more of a story than you would expect. There's all this sci-fi lingo, abbreviations, anagrams, just all kinds of different company names. Maybe not anagrams, but abbreviated names is what I meant to say. And there's just a lot of insider jargon, but there's a cool story going on, and there's a war, there's tensions, there's different political factions. So I think the story is actually pretty cool and not expected in a lot of roguelikes where it's more about just combat. So this is more on the end of, a Tales of Majile. Not as much story as that, but pretty good amount of story. And it all seems to be a fixed story, though. It's not procedural like Caves of Qud, the story. So then, what about the graphics in the game? How does this game look? I think that Quasimorph looks fantastic. It is a pixelated kind of, retro 8-bit, 16-bit kind of space of a game, and for what it is, I think it looks really good and fun. It's not going to blow you away. It's not the most hyper-realistic thing, but it serves, and it's fun to look at. And what about the audio in the game? How are the sound effects and the music? The music is hilarious, mostly heavy metal, like Jupiter Hell, and then the audio is phenomenal in the sense of there's a lot of voice acting from the enemies that you encounter, and they have a lot of like hammy kind of like reverb and effect on it, so it sounds B-movie cheesy, which is appropriate for this space-based game. So I think the audio is actually pretty good in Quasimorph. Then, how does this all come together in style? What is the style of Quasimorph? Like, does it feel like it has a soul? Does it feel like it's an empty shell of a game that is just following a blueprint and doesn't really have anything unique about it? For Quasimorph, I think it excels in style. This is early access, but it just has all sorts of elements to the game that are unique. I haven't played an extraction-based sci-fi roguelike of this kind, and some of the design choices surprised me. I think the art and the graphics and the sound are really cool. I think the story and the amount of lore and writing are impressive. And then I just think the overall idea of having different units, being able to clone them, swap between them, unlock them, is just a fun take on this genre. So I definitely think that Quasimorph has a good sense of style. So now we move into the portion of the review where I want to give it like an overall grade. And before I ever give an overall grade, I like to ground my review in what are people saying on Steam and what about Metacritic. So because Quasimorph is a new game, October of 2023 is the date listed on Metacritic, there's only one user review of a 10. And on Steam, there's like 1,100 mostly positive reviews. So there's not much to go on because it's a new game. So what do I give Quasimorph? Right now I give Quasimorph a B. And I give it a B because I think it's super fun. It's very challenging. It's got a lot of cool systems and things going on in the game that have really impressed and surprised me. I could even consider a B+, but what holds me back for Quasimorph is that I need to play more of the game. I need to see how much is added to the game. It's early access. Let's see how it finishes. And I do not like that there is no combat log in the game, and there are some difficulty spikes that seem unexplained. But that's kind of expected in a roguelike, but I still would like to have more information and know. I think the game could do a better job explaining some things. There's some smoothing that needs to be done, but I gotta tell you what, I am really having a good time with this. I'm really impressed with the game. And I think right now I'm comfortable just giving it like a nice early B, that this is fun. Like, this is a good time, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So that's my grade for Quasimorph, and I'd love to know what you think of my grade. Do you feel it's a fair grade? If you've played it, would you give it a higher or a lower score, and why? Please tell me in the comments below if you agree with the grade or what you think about this grade. Now, in this portion of the review, I want to then move into whether or not I think you should buy Quasimorph and if it's worth your time. So Quasimorph is currently on Steam, and I bought it on sale, and I got it for like $13 on sale. It's $20 full price. I was able to get it in a bundle with Stone Shard at an extra discount because I already own Stone Shard, so I got it at maybe 25 or 30% off, but it's currently 20% off at $16. So, that is the price when you're considering it. And I always, when I say should you buy it, what I do is I start out with what kind of game is this like. It's like if you take Stone Shard and Doors of Trithius, and then you mix in Jupiter Hell, you've got Quasimorph. You have a kind of sci-fi, turn-based shooter, that roguelike, but it has roguelite elements with cloning and meta progression, and then it has, this bit of extraction business where you're not in an open world. You're kind of going around and selecting missions, and you're trading and you're unlocking new loot, and if you can keep that loot, you can use it with other characters. So it's an interesting spin where it's not completely over if you die. Like, you can build up your account and move on, so it's not as soul-crushing, so it mitigates the difficulty somewhat. So if you like roguelikes and you like sci-fi games and you like seeing how roguelikes iterate, I definitely think this is in your wheelhouse. Remember, it's not a true roguelike because it's not like everything is lost on death, but it captures that very much, that all of your experience is lost and your character starts out at level 0, and if you had some really sweet loot, you have a very good chance of losing that. Now, I don't know, as you progress in the game, you might be able to get technology or things that allow you to keep experience or items more readily. I'm not sure about that, but from where I'm at, it's like you die, you keep some items, and then you have to start over at level 0 with your character. So that's what kind of a game it is and what other games it's like. What about the difficulty? I always talk about difficulty because some players don't like incredibly challenging games, and this game is a challenge. This game is like, I've died a couple of times now, and it's been brutal. An exploding barrel got me, and poison from a spider on the ground got me, and they happened swiftly, and there was very little I could do in the way of healing because I didn't have any kind of like instantaneous heals. But that being said, they were my fault. And I could have easily, made better decisions perhaps. I'm just new, so you learn what to avoid, what's going, and it's not the hardest roguelike I've ever played. It's not like you're instantly dead. And compared to some other games, you hit reasonably well. Like, you're mowing down targets pretty well with just even basic weapons. So I think it's like on the medium to hard end, but not brutal and punishing. So it's challenging, but I don't think it's prohibitively so. And you probably get better through more deaths, just like any true roguelike that's worth its salt. Then I think about value. Well, is Quasimorph worth the value? For right now, $16 on sale, absolutely. Like, I could see myself getting that 1 hour for $1 value and even more with this game. And there's more to come as it's in early access. And I believe it even has a DLC and some more stuff coming out. But the DLC might just be stylistic. Or like, cosmetic stuff. So I think this game is still evolving. It is early access, so you always take the risk of an early access game not finishing, but at the same time, I think that the value is pretty good right now. And what about replayability? This is where roguelites shine. Yeah, you replay it, and it's fun. You get to do the same thing again, but it's procedural, so it's different, and you're trying to sort of like build up and make progress so you can get better the next time. And it feels fresh and different. So I think that the replayability is very high for a roguelike, which is important because you're going to be dying and redoing it. So overall, I think that Quasimorph is a pretty safe recommendation if you like roguelikes. If you're not a fan of the genre, it's probably not going to be for you. But if you like turn-based sci-fi games and you're interested in seeing what's going on with roguelikes, maybe you liked Stone Shard, Doors of Trithias, Jupiter Hell, definitely check out Quasimorph. All right, everybody, I think that's all I want to say about this game. Now, I have a Let's Play. I'm going to put links to my videos down below if you want to see more gameplay before you make a decision on whether you should buy it or just kind of see more about Quasimorph. And I want to say thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you think of my grade and my recommendation and what your feelings are about Quasimorph in the comments below. Everybody, thanks again. Take care.